All right, so the Brendan Allen versus RDR Canada Vancouver card, it just ended. This was a really good card. I really enjoyed it, except for those last two fights. That was a pretty boring fights. Anyways, I got the RDR Brendan Allen pick wrong, horribly wrong. What even happened? RDR and Brendan Allen literally switched places, as in, Allen usually wins the first round dominantly and then he just sells it and loses the fight. Well, in this case, RDR was dominantly destroying Allen in the first round and sold it so bad. And I don't know, the question, if you had a horrible round, a second round in the grappling, why would you want to continue? Like, I was expecting RDR to even want to test a striking against an Allen, Allen is probably a stylistic, a very hard stylistic matchup for RDR on the feet. He matches him in size and length. And Robert's a little bit small for the division for middleweight frame wise, so RDR could have used those knees pretty nasty. So I was thinking, I want to see how RDR is gonna test his knees against Allen, and that didn't happen. Anyways, before I even get to that, I got 6 out of 7 right, or 6 out of, what is it together, 14? No, 13 fights. So I got 6 out of 13 fights right. Horrible. This is probably the worst I did in picks. Or maybe I did another card much worse. I did it horribly. And funny enough, ironically, I got the first 3 fights right of the card. And I was thinking, wow, I swept it. I got the usury pick right as well. And I was thinking, I'm going to sweep this whole card. No, we got so many more upsets. I was thinking, we got too many upsets. It was a little bit too much for my liking. And yeah, I don't know. Let's start off with the first fight. Women's bantamweight. Melissa Croden versus Tainara Lisboa. This was not actually a bad fight, especially a bad fight for a debutant WBA fighter. Melissa, she had a very fun fight before this one. Before she got to the UFC, she had a really fun fight in the regional scene, and she made another good fight against Tainara. It was a competitive back and forth in the first round. Lisboa edged out the win in the first round, and then Melissa just kept on pushing in the second into the third, kept breaking down Tainara. Took her down. Tainara kind of shelled up on the ground, and Melissa kept on pushing, kept on ground and pounding, and the ref stepped in, and that was a good finish. Melissa still has a little bit of holes in her game, but she can improve into a dangerous prospect into the bantamweight division. So she's kind of a one to look out for, I guess, for this division. But I want to say she's showed too much talent. Maybe she goes on to become a gatekeeper in the future, maybe. And she's not that young as well, so it's not like she has a lot of room to work with, a lot of time. But she's pretty good. I would say she's pretty good for this division. Got her right. This one also got her right. Azamat Bekeov versus Yusri Belgaroui. A lot of people were picking Azamat, and that made me a little bit nervous because I was thinking I picked Yusri. Stylistically, I was looking at this, the way they fought before. Yusri was looking in the regional scene and his Dana White Contender Series fights. I was thinking, Yusri could win this, and this is a very hard matchup, but he could have won this pretty nicely because he was defending those takedowns pretty nicely in the regional scene, and he has a nasty jab. And exactly like I said in my predictions video, kind of exactly what happened was Yusri was gonna get taken down, he was gonna survive, and then he was gonna just put the damage onto Azamat, and that's exactly what happened with that jab. Azamat has no head movement. He has power on the feet, but that's about it. His striking is horrible. His head movement is horrible. Yusri doesn't really have too much power, so he was kind of in danger as well when it came to on the feet. But Yusri did a good job, avoiding Azamat's punches. He did get clocked pretty badly in the second round. But that was the only thing I remember from Azamat landing pretty big significant shots on Yusri. Aside from that, Yusri was just beating up Azamat for 3 rounds straight, and got a standing TKO, and that was a pretty good performance for Yusri. Azamat, he's not a horrible middleweight. He is actually a pretty good middleweight. So that was a really big win for Yusri. And Yusri, he's not that young, but he's not that old. And so I guess you can kind of pace him into the division to let's say you can give him 1 or 2 more fights in the, let's say, on the unranked area of middleweight, and then you can start giving him ranked fights. But right now, I don't know who he can fight right now. But just give him someone. It's getting past Azamat is a big test for Yusri. So the next fight, I highly doubt Yusri's gonna have a struggle. He's gonna struggle with. Next up, Stephanie Luciano versus Ravena Oliveira. So this I also got right 3 rights in a row, and then I did horribly on picks after that. But 3 rights in a row, I got this one right. It was a good fight. It was. I mean, Stephanie, her kickboxing was really good in this fight. Ravena, she had good boxing, but that wasn't enough to get past Stephanie's like range, and she just kept on eating leg kicks. Stephanie was very active and just beat her to a decision win. One of the few decisions on this card, a bunch of finishes. Those was a good card, like I said. On to the next fight, Danny Barlow versus the Jourdain Santos. This was a huge upset. If you picked Santos, can you give me some money? I'm kind of broke right now. Anyways, if you pick Santos, you should don't spend it too much on a Rolex or anything. Just save up that money. Anyways, this was a huge upset. I don't know. Danny Barlow low-key looked like a middleweight version of Jamal Hill with his footwork, with his striking. I thought Danny Barlow was much better than that. He had horrible footwork. He was very flat-footed. Welterweight, I did say it in my predictions. His footwork is very slow, but he has very quick hands. And I thought those quick hands were going to translate to a middleweight to a much more quicker striker, because he is flat-footed, but he has quick hands. And I thought that was going to be a problem for Jourdain, who lost to Ozzy Diaz. I don't know. Sometimes these fights just don't make any sense at all. And Danny Barlow was, like I said, he was looking like Jamal Hill. Horrible footwork, horrible striking, horrible position. It was just 2 wild punches. He did land that left hook, that left cross a couple times on Santos, but that wasn't enough. He needs to, get more tools, in his tool bag. He just diversify his tool bag, basically. He had a horrible performance against Jourdain Santos. That should have been a step up. What is that fight? An easy layup fight for middleweight. His middleweight debut. That should have been an easy middleweight layup. And Danny Barlow is 6'2". He's much bigger than Ozzy Diaz also. And you were fighting at welterweight. Yes, you did lose to that one English dude. I forgot his name. But he should have done more. I don't know. I just don't get it. Whatever. I'm not going to keep on going on this one. Whatever. Flyweight to Bruno Silva versus Hyun-Sung Park. I got this one wrong as well. I thought Hyun-Sung Park's striking and, him being much bigger than Bruno Silva. He didn't even look that bigger than Bruno Silva in there. They kind of look the same size, similar. So I don't know. One of the, if Bruno or Silva or Bruno or Park, either or their heights is wrong and the stats of the UFC. But they didn't look that far apart. Let me check. I don't think it's going to show the stats anymore. Usually they shows the fights. Yeah. They get, I don't know. Whatever. Bruno Silva looked much better than Park. Fundamentally, skill-wise, timing, athleticism, just much more better. I got this one completely wrong. I thought Park was just going to be, physically much more imposing in there. He wasn't. They were basically the same size in there. And I thought his boxing, because of his size, and he had pretty good boxing for what we've seen so far, it was going to be a problem for Bruno Silva. But Bruno Silva just literally was just Speedy Gonzalez in and out with his jab. Got the takedowns. Park did get a really good takedown in the first round. But that was it. Bruno Silva, he had also a much more better gas tank. Bruno Silva was basically way more better in every single category than Park in this fight. It's just, he outclassed him, basically. He literally outclassed him, showed him levels. And it shows how crazy Joshua Van is, because what the heck? Joshua Van hasn't even been training for that long, and he outclassed Bruno Silva that badly. What is up with my voice? There's no way I'm losing it recording for 10 minutes. Bantamweight, Cody Gibson versus Aoriqileng. I got this one wrong. That was a quick KO to the point where I was actually not even watching the fight, and I quickly put it on, and then I saw that Erling won. I'm like, okay, what even happened? So I watched the replay, and that was a pretty crazy KO. I knew Cody Gibson wasn't that good on the striking. I dare say that when he does strike, he dips down pretty low and he avoids striking, because he doesn't really strike, he avoids it, or he uses the dips down for a takedown. Well, that didn't even happen because he's got chinned straight up in the first 20 seconds. Good win for China number 1. Anyways, Aoriqileng. I didn't even want to say his name because I couldn't even pronounce it. Aoriqileng. Anyways, the Chinese man won. He's going to be getting 500 social credit points after this. So good for him. And good win. I still don't think highly of him. And I don't know what happens after this. They can give him whatever. Prepolec versus Drew Dober. Dude, by the way, when I look at these names, I'm looking at my camera and the camera's in front of my screen. And so the camera blocks the names. So I kind of have to scroll around my camera just to see the names. Anyways, Prepolec versus Drew Dober. This, Prepolec looked way more better than I imagined. He looked horrible, but good at the same time against a Drew Dober. Drew Dober is not even bad. He actually has really good wins in the UFC. Granted, Drew Dober does a much more lesser version of Drew Dober. He's much more aged. He's not in his prime anymore. But still, Prepolec had a pretty good performance, even though he lost. Like, even before he got just straight up destroyed by Drew Dober in the 3rd round, and that nut shot that lasted I don't know, like how many minutes. Before that, he was looking very good. Even like the 1st round, Drew Dober won, kind of competitive, but he still won it. 2nd round comes, Prepolec was landing those head kicks a lot throughout the whole fight. It was not that bad. Even though he had like the striking of like a fighter from like 2005, he was still not doing that bad in the striking against a Drew Dober. And that kind of makes me think, are the fighters from UFC, like from like the early days, even though they were much more worse visually, were they still pretty good? Because Prepolec literally looks like that. He literally looks like, I don't know, like, what's his name? Who's the guy with the red hair that literally got destroyed by Anderson Silva in his first fight? I forgot that dude's name, but he kind of literally looks like him with striking. But he's not, Prepolec wasn't that bad. Like, don't cut him. He had a very good performance against Drew Dober. He should not get cut. Give him another fight. And realistically, Prepolec wins that fight because he was not looking that bad. And Drew Dober is Drew Dober. I kind of imagined Drew Dober was going to beat up Prepolec in like the 1st round, 3rd round. I wasn't expecting him to kind of lose a close round to Prepolec in the 2nd round. That was a really good round for Kyle. And then 3rd round comes, Drew Dober nut shots Kyle. Hopefully Kyle has a couple of children right now, because if he doesn't, then Drew Dober low-key, ended his lineage. But either from that, Drew Dober, the nut shot, the timing stopped. Yeah, the fight resumed, and then Drew Dober, he obviously was able to regenerate his gas tank, and just started to put the beating on Prepolec and ended him in this 3rd round. So sad ending for Kyle, but I do think he should not get cut. Kyle for sure did not get cut at all. The UFC should keep him, and they should give him a really good fight next, because he didn't look that bad against BSD. Like, for him to survive 1 round, that is pretty good. And he didn't look that bad at all against Drew Dober. So give him another good fight. We want to see Kyle Prepolec next again in the future. Now, next up, Kyle Nelson versus Matt Frevola. I also got this one wrong. I was assuming Matt Frevola was going to be much more quicker. Yes, Kyle Nelson is coming from featherweight. So he's going to be having that featherweight skill, even though I don't really think highly of that. But anyways, he was actually beating Matt Frevola pretty badly. He even finished him in the 1st round. Did he? It was a finish by situation, as in the ref stepped in the last 3 seconds. But I don't think he was. If the ref didn't step in, and the ref stepped in actually wanting to stop the round and not the fight, then Matt Frevola was gonna survive. So I guess he finished him, but not really. Those 3 seconds, Matt Frevola wasn't gonna get KO'd, but within those 3 seconds. So it is not that. It's not really. I guess you can say Kyle Nelson got robbed from a finish, but not really, because the ref wasn't stopping for a finish. He was stopping for a round. Like, in those 3 seconds, wasn't gonna do anything. It was Matt Frevola was still gonna stay in there in that fight. So realistically, if the ref didn't step in those 3 seconds earlier, Kyle Nelson was gonna get a decision win either way. So one of the few decisions of this card, Nelson was gonna get it either way. The ref stepped in 3 seconds earlier or 3 seconds later. It doesn't matter. Good win for Kyle Nelson. Matt Frevola, He looked garbage in there. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I wasn't really paying attention to this fight. I'm gonna be honest, because once I saw that ending, I was like, oh, no, Kyle Nelson won, and then Matt Frevola wasn't able to bring it back at all in the second and the third round. So I was kind of like, I just kind of pay attention to the fight. And Kyle Nelson just kept on beating up Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola couldn't do anything in the clinch or in those tight space boxing scenarios. He couldn't do anything. I don't know what happened, but yeah, good win for Kyle Nelson. Yeah. Anyways, bantamweight Charles Jourdain versus Davy Grant. I got this one right, but I was not expecting a finish. I mean, I kind of did say that Charles Jourdain has the guillotine choke threat. He had like 3 or 4 guillotines in the UFC already. And so it's not crazy for Charles to get a guillotine choke on Davy Grant. It's just like 4th or 5th guillotine now in the UFC. So it is, that's one of his best submissions. Oh, his only submission. What am I saying? One of the best. His only submission in the UFC. So good win. He dropped him with a flying knee. That was pretty cool. I guess that, I just say Charles Jourdain has 0 power. So a flying knee is probably, enough to drop a Davy Grant, I guess. Enough, dropped him and got the guillotine choke. Good win for Charles Jourdain. And he's on a 2-fight winning streak, so maybe he can build himself into another good winning streak, maybe? I don't know. Next up, Manon Fiorot versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. This was a good fight. And bro, 2 good WMA fights for for one card is pretty crazy. But anyways, she dropped her with a left. What was it? I don't remember exactly. I'm be honest, I wasn't even paying attention in this fight, but I kind of saw the replay. She dropped her, and then ground and pounded her, and crazy finish for Manon Fiorot. I got this one wrong. Flyweight. So that's the middle. No. It's strawweight, bantamweight. Okay, so this is the division where, what's her name? Zhang Weili is gonna be fighting Valentina. So yeah, there's no way Manon beats Weili or Valentina in a rematch against Valentina. So I don't know. Maybe she fights for the title after this again. So yeah, I do think maybe I'm gonna lean towards Weili beating Valentina because I do like Weili romantically. I'm joking. So Manon, they gave her Weili when Weili wins. Weili. Next up, Marlon Vera versus Amin Zahabi. Good fight. This fight kind of went down like exactly how I said. Marlon Vera, he had a pretty good jab. He's gonna land it on Zahabi all night long. Zahabi has a weird defense and he has good pressure, and that Marlon struggles with that. So, and he had very good moments just beating up Marlon Vera in some moments, but Marlon Vera had nasty shots himself. So it was a very close fight. Very close. Was it a robbery? I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of do think. I would say it was a close fight when it comes to strikes, like strikes attempted and strikes landed. But I would lean towards Vera landing the more significant strikes, like the more damaging strikes. But Amin Zahabi had, I don't know. They both had very good moments. It's hard to say. Maybe it's a draw realistically. I would maybe have to rewatch this fight to see it. But it is Canada, so it is a very close fight. They would have given it to Zahabi. I think I said that in my predictions that if this came to a close decision, they would give it to Zahabi. But that's kind of how it went, so Zahabi won. Oh well. So on to Kevin Holland versus Mike Malott. This was a very, very bad fight. I hated this fight for many reasons. The most important one, that shot ruined the whole fight. Ruined the fight for the fans, for Kevin Holland. It basically says, oh, he didn't take the no contest. Was he gonna win if he never got a shot? He should have taken the no contest. Makes no reason for him to continue the way he was even acting after the 5 minutes. It should have been ruled a no contest. There was like 3 dudes that entered the octagon as well during the corner break, and they're just asking him and he was just ignoring them. I don't know. This fight, whole fight for both of these fights, come on. Like, we should have gotten a much better fight than this. This was a really good matchup for both fighters. But oh well. Kevin Holland, he should fight that one Russian Muslim. What's his name? Islam Dulatov. He should fight that guy next. Maybe it's a little bit too early for Islam Dulatov. That's his name, right? The Russian model. Maybe it's a little bit too early of a fight for him. But I don't know who else Kevin Holland could fight, because he fought. I don't know. There's some prospect out there that I guess that it's fun. It's a good fight for Kevin. I don't know. By the way, Mike Malott, good win for him. I mean, I guess realistically they can give him Jeff Neal. That's a good fight for Mike Malott. I guess so. Jeff Neal. Okay, they can give Jeff Neal Mike Malott. It's a good fight for Mike Malott. Good win. I got this one wrong. Oh well. On to this last fight. What was happening? RDR had an amazing first round. Gassed. I mean, he could at least try to strike with him in the second and the third round at least. I don't know why he just wanted to go for the takedown the first round and the third round, and then he himself got taken down in the fourth round. Like, bro, he literally gassed out and was too hurt to even continue. Even before the doctor stoppage, he was just he quit basically. This was I don't know. I got this one wrong as well. RDR, he's much better than that, and I don't know what he did. This is basically, like I said, RDR versus Brendan Allen. They literally switched souls, and Brendan Allen literally had a horrible first round, and got an amazing third and fourth round. RDR, I don't know what happened. He probably gassed. I don't know. I'm trying to. I don't know. Brendan Allen, he could fight. Who can they give him next? I don't know. There's a bunch of names actually right now in middleweight that either fighter could fight. You know, the RDR could fight Paulo Costa. He could fight MVP. There's a bunch of names for either or. Brendan Allen could fight Kayo, or he could fight Izzy. He could fight Robert Whitaker. So there's a bunch of names for each fighter. You can mix and match at middleweight right now. There's a bunch of nobody really booked right now at middleweight, and there's no logjam at the title contentions area. So middleweight, it's open for either or. Good win for Brendan Allen. He kind of was going. I mean, he was kind of going on a horrible track record. He had a horrible performance against Marvin Vittori. Lost to Imavov. So it's a good win for him. Get back on track, especially since he literally left the gym and went to another gym for this. So it's a really good win for Brendan Allen. And RDR, I don't know what that was. He could have actually won this fight if he stuck to striking, which is exactly what I was thinking of. He's like, oh, RDR got those knees. He literally dropped Robert Whitaker in the second round with those knees. He didn't want to knee the dude. He wanted to clinch and take him down and 50-50 land on top. Sometimes he would land on top, sometimes he landed at the bottom, and when he landed at the bottom, he couldn't do anything. It's just, what was he doing? I don't know. He could have actually beat Brendan Allen on the feet. Like, literally, I literally thought that. But anyways, I guess he would have lost to Fluffy, I guess, in the original matchup. So there's that. But either way, I do think RDR is pretty good. He could still win his next matchup against a Kyle, not a Kyle, a Paulo, or whoever they're giving him in front of him, Cannoneer. I think those are very winnable matchups for RDR. But this was a horrible, dumb situation that RDR put himself in this fight. Huge mistake. Makes no sense. Good win. Good win for Brendan Allen. Bad loss for RDR. It's not a bad loss. Brendan Allen's pretty good. But that was a weird... I don't know. That was something Brendan Allen should have done. I'll be honest. By the way, good card. Really amazing card. I would rate it like an 8 out of 10. It would have been a 10 out of 10 if we didn't get those last few fights in the end of this card. But who cares? We got our UFC 321 next week. Is it next week? Let me see. It's next week. Can't wait. This card is amazing. We will all be watching this. Mizuki. Anyways, good card. This card is actually like a hardcore's dream. Like, if you're a hardcore, this is your dream card basically. A lot of good matchups. Not that much star power, but a lot of good matchups. So I can't wait for it. And that's all I gotta say. So thank you guys for watching. If you watched this far, like and subscribe. And thank you guys for watching. Goodbye.